Hello, everyone. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to know when it's time to upgrade to Logic Pro because a lot of people wonder, okay, I'm doing songwriting, I'd like to produce, um, and the question is, do you go straight to GarageBand? Do you go straight to Logic Pro? Do you even use one of the DAWs or do you hire somebody to do it for you? And so we are going to talk about that today. I'll share with you my experiences and what was valuable for me and what resources I had to be able to do what I did. So, when I first decided I wanted to make an album, I decided that I was going to use studios because I literally knew nothing. Like I had recorded a couple songs on GarageBand, but I couldn't make them sound very professional. Like I was, I mean, I wrote a couple kid songs, and they turned out to be very popular amongst schools because I used to be a teacher and an assistant principal, and I was very I wrote kids leadership songs, and they ended up doing very well despite having been like pretty poor quality recordings. They weren't terrible, but they weren't great quality. And I just did those on GarageBand at home, and it was really good for me to practice that and to use GarageBand to get a feel for how it worked. Now, in terms of like my own music, I was, the songs that I had written that I was hoping that I would gain an audience from. I actually, I decided I wanted to use proper studios, and by this time, I was an assistant principal. I was making good money. I had extra money to spend on studios because studios are expensive. I mean, I was going to be paying a good, you know, like 20, what was it going to be? I ended up paying, I used a studio in California, producer and studio in California, in the Bay Area. And that ended up being like, um, you know, like $3,000 to $5,000 a song, which was way too much for a first album. But, I had to pay for the studio time, the mixer, the master, the engineer. I like all of them I paid for. And by this time, I was an ed tech consultant. So I had the money and I was okay spending it. But my problem was is that I was spending all this money, but I didn't have like a clear plan on how I was going to release it and get an audience. I did do a GoFundMe just so that I had people kind of on my radar, but or an Indiegogo. But I was not terribly confident. People were very generous and kind, and they contributed. And I ended up doing a house concert tour at the end, like 14 shows in 14 days in Idaho, Utah, and California, and Colorado. But because we ended up moving from California to Colorado, but I used a studio in Utah, and it ended up being about $1,200 per song, and I got a really good quality. People with super super clear ears would say they liked the well, actually, people couldn't tell the difference. When I said, "Okay, can you tell which studio I used for this song?" They were like, "Oh, this one definitely was like the one in California." And I'm like, "No, actually, it wasn't. It was the one in Utah." So, in the end, they couldn't tell that people like the regular listener could not tell the difference. My mastering engineer in California could tell the difference. She was like, "Oh yeah, like this producer makes your voice sound way better." But she was the only one who had an opinion on the quality. Nobody else could tell the difference. So in the end, for 7 songs, I ended up spending about $17,000 on my album, which is a lot, especially for a first album and for not having really any online presence. And I mean, if you're going to spend that kind of money on an album, you need to have an online presence. Otherwise, you need to be doing all this stuff at home by yourself. Because what I ended up learning was that I could build a home studio for $600. I could build a home studio for $600, and then I could produce the stuff. I could produce a song myself and then send it to a producer, to a mixing and mastering engineer to mix and master it for me. before I had the skills. So I did that. I got I got, let this cool off. Yeah, I got the song. I got several songs done, sent it. I tried to go the cheap route and try to do international, like labor and hire internationally. I was not as pleased with that. So I would just do a local one and produce the song yourself if you're confident in your production abilities, and then send it to a mixing engineer to do the mixing and mastering. And you don't even need to pay for mastering. You could have a mix, and if they don't master, then you can just have them do the just send you the files, and you can master it yourself on AI mastering engines. It's actually now it's incredibly inexpensive to do your own. I paid locally here in California about $350 to have somebody mix it and master it for me, and he did a good job. And then I learned the skills myself and began mixing and mastering them myself, because what ended up happening was I went to a studio here in California. The guy was very talented. He was great, but for whatever reason, our personalities did not mix, and I felt very anxious around him. I felt like he was kind of perfectionistic. Like he was, even though he tried to kind of seem like he was not, like he was trying to use my time well, but what it ended up coming off as like hustling me, like through the experience, rather than sort of, I was not at ease, and that was hard for me. So I would say, and he was $700 a day. If I were to redo it, I would, well, it was after him that I ended up deciding to learn to produce, mix, and master myself. So I'd been producing my own stuff, but it was after him that I decided to mix and master, because I was like, I'm not going to pay that kind of money to feel super anxious, and in the end be okay, not super happy with the outcome of the recording. The recording was fine, but we were not able to get very much done during that time. I will put it down to, I was not as fully prepared as I needed to be. I kind of thought maybe he would have more options, like available, and I'm not. Yeah. So in the end, I ended up deciding I need to learn this craft myself. And after that, I was just unstoppable. I just started producing all the time. And I set up my $600 studio, and I got everything in order, and I've really enjoyed doing the process myself. Now, at first I was using GarageBand, and if you don't have any money, but you have a Mac, then use GarageBand, but don't, but I didn't have a keyboard. I didn't have a MIDI keyboard for a while. I actually just used my typing keyboard, because they have musical typing view on GarageBand, and I used that as my keyboard. I used musical typing, and that ended up being I made a couple of really amazing songs with it, and it worked out fine. So you don't have to have expensive equipment in order to make songs you love. And at the end of the day, these songs are for you. And yes, you want other people to like them and to enjoy the listening experience. That is important. But you don't have to have expensive songs or expensive equipment in order to do that. like I said, my setup cost about $600. And I did get mentorship in order to know exactly what that setup looked like and how to make it work, because I struggled for a while. Like, how do I make this work? And I wasn't confident about it. It was really hard and kind of like a very new world to me. So I do think that getting mentorship is critical. It was for me. If I had taken not just a course, but was part of a community and a program, if I had done that much sooner, I would have gotten a lot more done a lot sooner. So if I were to go back and redo anything, it would be that. It would be to get a mentor. And, with my mentorship, I really enjoyed my mentor, Chris Bradley, who no longer does it anymore. But she was great because she was able to explain things in a way that I could understand. A lot of courses I had signed up for expected me to already know stuff, expected me to already understand a lot of things, and it just wasn't, they were not beginner friendly. And my course that my clients have been taking it's like, it walks you through every single little detail, and it's extremely beginner friendly. It is not at all, like, I do not ever expect you to know anything. So I break down everything very clearly and basically, so that you don't wonder, well, what does that mean? And have to go look up a bunch of stuff. So my course, I used to teach first grade. So my specialty is like breaking things down to a very understandable degree. And you will go from basically being a songwriter to you might be songwriting and using your GarageBand. Even if you're not using GarageBand, I will walk you through how to use Logic Pro, even if you've never used GarageBand. So you don't have to have previous experience in order to be successful in this course. So the question is, are you ready for Logic Pro, or should you have some sort of other, like, what do you need in order to begin my course? If you want to learn music production, do you need to already have previous knowledge? And the answer is no, you don't need to have previous knowledge. You don't need to have any understanding of music production at all, because I will walk you through everything from the very basic place. Even like, I will go from song idea to all the way to release using Logic Pro and AI. So if you have any questions about that, visit my link in my website or link in my profile, and you'll learn all about my program and what I offer. And I look forward to talking with you. And if you just want like a one-on-one consultation, like maybe you are trying to figure it out on your own, you're not ready to join a program, that's totally fine. You can book a call with me, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Talk soon.